So I'm just going to give it to you straight. I'm here to tell you a story, and it may sound far-fetched, but I'm urging you to be open-minded. You see, your very future depends upon it. See, I have been sent from the future to deliver this important message for you today by some of the very people in this room. My name is Karen Palmer, and I'm the storyteller from the future, and I've come back to enable you to survive what is to come through the power of storytelling. However, before I go any further, I kind of get the sense that not everybody in this room is taking my word for the fact that I am from the future. So I'm going to do something very dangerous against protocol number 7652 BC1, and I'm going to tell you something from the future I could not possibly know unless I have come from here, because time is of the essence, and we are living in some very serious times. See, in the world that you currently live, technology controls every single aspect of your society. However, in the time where I come from, technology controls you. So when it comes to something like your autonomous vehicles, like your driverless cars, at the moment your main concern is really safety. However, in the time where I come from, the main issue you see in the smart cities is security. You see, if you were to order a driverless car like an Uber, and when you step into the vehicle, the AI scans you and determines that you have any outstanding warrants against you, such as for a parking ticket or jaywalking, that vehicle will be turned into what is known as a temporary police transportation device. And you will not be taken to your designated destination. Oh, no, 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 no. You will be taken to the local police station for processing. So I have come back here to deliver an important message for you and also show you the other side of smart cities that you may not be aware of at this time that you currently live. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my work and what I do in this time, and then maybe you'll fully comprehend why you decided to send me back here today. So in the world that we currently live, we're living in a time of intense global social unrest, division and suppression on an unprecedented global level in our lifetime. Also, I would say, encouraged by social media networks, which are designed to are antagonistic by design to maintain our long interest and interactions in them. So this is what happens when you live in a world where storytelling and the power of storytelling is not harnessed. You live in this world we currently live. And that's why I created Riot. Riot is an emotionally responsive film that uses artificial intelligence and facial recognition. The film basically watches you back. So the film responds to you in branches depending upon your emotion. So if you're calm, the film branches in one direction, and if you're fearful, it branches in another. It's a live-site interactive installation surrounded by ambisonic sound. As you step into the filmscape, it's as if the film itself is spilled out around you, as if you're in the set, because you have debris from a riot around you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play you a short extract just of the user experience and how it impacts people.
Let me tell you why this is so great. This is just one room. It's less than 100 square feet. Yet we're able to use sensory and video, lights, the smells, the textures of this on the ground. It all brings you to the world, and you're completely immersed. Even though we're not in a riot. You're in a riot right here. Not in a riot, in a riot.
Riot oftentimes is destructive to the people who are fighting for justice. You know, because we were allowed to only do these things inside our own communities, and the bricks into the world, and the broke into the world.
Your hands started going in and out like this, then your chest puffed up, then the back of your neck just
false
flickered.
in like machine mode. Like I will do anything to achieve my mission and protect my people.
It was both very powerful and vulnerable at the same
Why don't I
time.
see what's and then I can always come back for
Whatever
the second.
performer produced, I immediately watching, being a witness to what was
I
happening.
mean, either way.
You may or may not be aware that VR and immersive experiences and this whole kind of realm of new storytelling, XR, MR, AR, affect people on a neurological level that is unprecedented. Children as young as 8 years old are confusing their memories when they watch with VR experiences with their memories. And that's why it has this great impact on people. I have been very inspired by parkour. Do you guys know about parkour in here? Okay, so parkour is an urban inner city sport which is about moving from point A to point B as efficiently as possible. I myself am a free runner, but to me parkour is really about moving through fear. And you may see the physicality of it, but it's really about navigating through your own personal fear so that you can do things that maybe most people would believe they couldn't do, and getting to a point of making that possible. That process of transformation is something which I have integrated into my work, as that's the impact I want to have upon the participants. So parkour has been instrumental in creating these experiences, influencing me with my work. I've also been working with education such as Brunel University in the UK, and this kind of convergence of education, technology, and art is very much the future of where industries are going. I call this form of storytelling subconscious storytelling, and it integrates all of these different practices and philosophies. I'm going to move on to now something I'm talking about bias in technology. Are you people in this audience familiar with this concept of bias in technology? Cool. This is great, because when you move from here and you talk to people, that you'll be familiar with it, because this is something which is a big narrative and a big dialogue that people are having all over the world at the moment. So I'm going to give you some definitions of artificial intelligence. I don't want to assume that everybody knows what they are. So artificial intelligence is human intelligence exhibited by machines. But I've also added my own definition, because to me, it's not just about the intelligence, it's about the stupidity, because it's humans which are actually programming them. Artificial is not a neutral dynamic. And this definition here, machine learning is a type of AI that provides computers with the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. So what happens is that developers program sequences into computers. And this code is being influenced by the developer's bias. It's implicit bias, which they may not be aware of. I'm going to just give you a quick definition of bias. You may not be aware of this case in Sarajevo, but this is the lady on the right. She was involved in this big scandal, submission scandal in New York. And it was actually, what she was doing was a federal offense, which is very super serious. And she got 30 days. And the lady on the left, all she did was, well, what she did was that she wanted her niece to go to a better school, so she put the address on the submission form of a relative who lived in a good catchment area. And for that, she got 5 years in prison. So that is really the definition of bias, that it's something which isn't, it's more about race or class or other forms of prejudice against somebody. So I'm going to show you an example of how bias, because it's probably hard for you to quantify, can become present in technology. Before I just to get to that example, is that bias in technology is something which has been identified as a real issue moving forward.
All right, so watch this. Black hand, Nothing. Larry, go. Black hand, nothing. Larry, go. Racist mother sinks.
So that's an example of bias in technology, or you could just say bad design, where that sensor really wasn't tested on someone apart from someone who didn't have white skin. And it might be quite comical when you look at this video. However, the implications are very, very serious. So as part of my research that I've been doing with a technology company called ThoughtWorks, we discovered that there was bias within AI that has been created for the criminal justice system. So there's a system called Compass that when a judge is sentencing a criminal, this system, this AI system, will suggest the length of the jail time. But this Compass system has been proven to be biased against people of color. There's a very similar system in the UK, which has also been proved to be biased against poor people. Because the people who are coding these systems, they're not often people of color or poor people, so they have a different set of parameters. Moving forward now, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the age of perception. So as a storyteller from the future, I'm letting you know in the time that you're currently living, the information age has done you a great disservice. You've believed that the more information you have, the more greater clarity or understanding you will have of a situation. However, it has only made people more alienated or more divided or more division. So what you're going to move into is going to be the age of perception. And this age is going to be about gaining more clarity and common understanding. So I integrated this concept of bias in networks and created my next project, which is called Perception.io. Perception.io is basically the future of law enforcement. For the immersive experience that I've created, the person goes into the space and the AI will monitor you, and your perspective will be that of a cop, and on your chest will be a camera. And different characters will come towards you. One will be white and one will be black. And depending on how you respond, it will be training. The concept is that you will be training the future of law enforcement through your own bias. So, for example, if a protagonist comes towards you and he's innocent and he's black, and you respond fearfully or angrily, maybe you would shoot him. The film will respond to your emotions and also your eye tracking. So the film is going to be showing how your bias can lead to bias networks. This is going to be the Perception.io experience that I've created in conjunction with Cooper Hewitt Museum in New York to make people aware of how bias is created in systems. I'm going to show you a super quick teaser for this.
Bienvenido, ciudadano. Baruch haba.
Welcome, valued citizen, to the future of law enforcement. Perception.io. Your future needs you today.
Yo, press the button.
Requesting additional support. We have a 1031. Shots fired. I repeat, shots fired. Dispatch is requesting nearest officers at 39th and 3rd Ave. Suspect is armed and dangerous.
Sir, there's been a robbery in the neighborhood and you fit the description. I need your hands up.
What the fuck do you want, man?
Sir,
what the fuck do you want?
Calm down. Sir, do you have a piece of ID with you? Sir, I need to see your ID.
What the fuck do you want, man?
Back up. Back up.
What do you want? What do you want?
Sir, back up. Ma'am, stay out of it. Back up and calm down, sir. Okay? Sir, what are you doing here?
You white motherfuckers always fucking with us.
Back up and calm down.
So you would be the cop, and how you respond to him will determine the narrative of the film. You will come into contact with a white person and a black person, and you will find out afterwards if they were a criminal or if they were someone with mental health issues. So, how is this relevant to business? I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the exposure I've had for my work and some of the partners that I work with. These are just an example of some of the companies who have endorsed my work, asked me to speak at events, or do workshops with them. What is happening is there is a convergence in the industry between science, tech, and art, and this kind of responsibility in terms of where we are going. And for many of these organizations, I am able to show for many of these organizations, I am able to bring their concepts to life in an innovative way and show them the future of their sectors. So say with NBC, I was talking to them about the future of film, where it's going to be the same way that my films are responsive, that their films are responsive. So that maybe when you go to your media player, you won't have to select a comedy if you're feeling down. The sensors will read your facial recognition and they will determine that you are depressed, and it will automatically suggest a comedy for you. I'm also working with, and science is very important to kind of have a context of what we're creating and why. I'm currently working with NYU University in New York. They have a SPAM lab, which is about exploring how your motivation, your emotions, and your goals influence your perception of reality. Tobii Pro. I don't know if you guys are aware of Tobii Pro. They're a hardware company, and they create eye tracking systems. And their main objective is to use technology to improve and enhance and empower human behavior. So I utilize their hardware in the systems that I create to show innovatively a way how that can be done through an immersive experience. ThoughtWorks Arts. ThoughtWorks is a technology company in New York. They have 5,000 employees, and they're in 15 countries. And I have been their artist in residence, a program they have there. The reason why they have their kind of arts program is to work with artists to really explore how cultural and society issues that are impacting technology, but through the freedom and the creative analytical lens of the artist. Their recent exhibitions have explored and residents transhumanism, cyborgism, biases in machines, and they have a suite of programs which benefit their clients, communities, and employees. They have the ThoughtWorks Arts, and under the umbrella they have an art hack, a residency, and an art hardware hack lab. ThoughtWorks drives innovation by creating facilitated frameworks and contexts in which art can collide with business. With each artist, they actively promote connections between residents and ThoughtWorks employees. So I could be working with one employee, or I could be working with different employees from around the world. What they do is that they capitalize on the employees when they are not staffed, then when they have downtime and it's self-organized development. They then attach them to these projects with the artists to explore themes which are critical to the goals and the values of the organization. I currently was working with them for my Riot project and my Perception.io project, and the knowledge gleaned was used to share with the clients. The increasing pace of technology and change means that their clients are always looking for ways to rapidly innovate and lead their respective fields, and they're looking for varied sources of inspiration and technical knowledge to help them accomplish it. Working with us artists, they're able to traverse new landscapes and come up with new critical interpretations that keeps them at the cutting edge of technology. What I did with them is that we created a data set, a machine learning data set. So machine learning is probably something you're familiar with, that lots of companies have that. Lots of companies have that, but not many people. And like the internet and the email that was with the military and the government for decades before it came to us, the people, we feel there's a need to democratize this technology. So what we did is we democratized AI, and we created an open source, which means it's something which is available for free for everybody that people could access. That's part of the mission statement for ThoughtWorks, accessible technology for everybody, and it was part of my objective with my work. So we were able to come together and create this open source AI. And that's actually the link for the open source AI, if you're interested in having a look. I'm going to just talk to you a little bit about tomorrow's smart cities today. So I'm going to talk to you about smart cities in the future, but I'm going to show you the origins of where they are by showing you the kind of the seeds of what will be the smart city of today that is there now. So my first question is, smart for whom? With what objective and what agenda? Are we designing them? Are we making them smart for us? Or the people that are designing them, is it smart in what way? Data. Data at the moment is coming up as a very critical issue in terms of the value of data. Let me just show you this video from the New York Times with some information about that. So data is going to become a major factor moving forward in terms of ownership and also objectives of it, and in terms of who it will benefit. Surveillance. So storytellers have spoken about how they felt that in the future, technology may be monitoring them. And at the times we're living, that has been proved to be very much this case. And uniquely so, it's a term that I've called self-surveillance. It's something which we're allowing by the hardware that we bring into our intimate spaces. Surveillance within the cityscape, a domestic surveillance. So I was at a talk in New York recently about surveillance, and a person got up and they were talking about the housing block in which they lived, where the landlord was about to introduce facial recognition as entry to the building block. And they were saying that this was basically a violation of their privacy and human rights, and it's now a test case going through, that if this is enabled to go through as the first of its kind, what repercussions will there be? And why would somebody want to do that? And what would be their objective? What other motives could they have, and what other benefits could they glean from having facial recognition, utilizing that just for you to enter your own apartment? Skynet, are you familiar with the Chinese credit system over here? Anybody? Okay, cool. Yeah, one person? Okay, cool. So Skynet is the name of the Chinese surveillance system. And China is introducing a credit system in 2020, next year. They're testing it now, where your digital identity will impact your real-life identity. So basically that means if you go on social media and you say something detrimental towards the state or the government, when you go for maybe a job promotion, you may not get it because they'll be gleaning your social media and they'll be saying things like you're not a trustworthy citizen. This has been happening as part of the rollout and the test for this, and it has impacted that 23 million people have been limited for their travel because of their social media. This is not isolated. The China, in terms of the technology, the rollout of this facial recognition has been expanded to Africa and to New York. And London.
The front line in facial recognition. Police cameras in an East London street, everyone gets scanned. If you refuse, here's what can happen.
Don't cover my face, I cover my face. Don't push me over when I'm walking down the street.
This man didn't want to be caught by the police cameras, so he covered his face. Police stopped him, they photographed him anyway, an argument followed.
How would you like it if you walk down the street and someone grabbed you? Hold yourself down, you're going to handcuff. That's you. You would like it, would you? You wind your neck in.
What's your suspicion?
The fact that he walked past clearly marked
I would do the
facial
same.
recognition thing and covered his face.
I would do the
Gives
same.
us grounds to stop
No,
him
it doesn't.
and verify.
The police.
So he didn't like the facial recognition recording him as a prototype system in London, and they arrested him. This is an organization in LA that is looking at how facial recognition it will be connected to predictive policing, that not just the use of it, but how it will be utilized in the future. So they're connecting patterns with policing, surveillance, and predictive policing and facial recognition. And then back to the point what I was talking about, bias, that we're creating these networks, but the bias is being proven with the research that I've been doing with the technology company ThoughtWorks, that it's almost impossible to get rid of bias. So even if these systems were completely created for a very profoundly good way, they're still going to be biased within them. So just to conclude by giving you this glimpse of the future, that in 2020, the social credit system will be launched in China, and the world will change overnight. We're going to move into a world lacking AI governance, data regulation, and transparency. Weaponized technology are all going to be integrated into this smart city that we're moving towards. Hence why I showed you the images at the beginning. They were images from the future of people demonstrating against these issues that are prevalent in the time where I currently live. My intro is basically a flashback to the future of smart cities. So in conclusion, is as an artist, I work with technologists and I work with people like yourselves to kind of offer a cultural discussion, dissection, and disruption from a different lens. There's not just, it's important to create the work, whatever it is you're creating, but it's also important to have another voice in the room, another opinion, another creative insight coming from a very, very different approach. When I was with ThoughtWorks recently, they had an annual event, and they're a technology company, and they said to their staff, when you have your clients and they ask you to do something, you've got to sometimes ask them, yes, you can, but why? Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Because they said, you may be the last person in the room to ask that question. You see, I've come back from the future to remind you to be conscious and deliberate in what you're creating. And as an artist and other creatives can work with you, as well as scientists, and have intersections of industries coming together so that we can have multiple perspectives as we move into this time of smart cities, so that they can be smart for all of us and not just a few. Thank you.